Welcome. In this presentation, we will look at the different sample recovery sleeves manufactured by GeoInsight, including our newest sleeve, the W3 HybridSleeve. Here we see all four HydraSleeve type samplers. The first one on the left is the original HydraSleeve that was introduced in 2001. The next one, introduced in 2009, is the SuperSleeve, which is created to maximize the volume recovered from a 2-inch well. The third sleeve pictured is a SpeedBag, which was introduced in 2015. This device minimizes mixing and can be dropped in a well and then immediately recovered without being left in the well for long periods to allow the well to re-equilibrate. Finally, the most recent addition is the W3 HybridSleeve, which uses passive diffusion and advective flow to collect a sample in a hollow collection tube, and then transports the sample from the well screen to the surface via a flexible sample recovery sleeve below the collection tube. Now, let's look at each individually and discuss their operation, advantages, and disadvantages. The standard HydraSleeve has been on the market since 2001 and comes in different configurations, like a standard bottom-weighted unit, a top-weighted SkinnySleeve, and a bottom-weighted SuperSleeve. But each of these are just different configurations of the same tool. The HydraSleeve is the original No-Purge sampler, and the technology has been proven at hundreds of sites worldwide with tens of thousands of samples collected every year. Two of their main appeals are that they are simple to use with few moving parts, and they are inexpensive. The sample volume can range anywhere from up to a little more than 1 liter from bottom-weighted HydraSleeve out of a 2-inch Schedule 40 well with a saturated 10-foot well screen. The HydraSleeve fills at a 1-to-1 ratio when using a sleeve that is sized to fit relatively tightly into the well. It collects a sequential core when it's pulled upwards. In other words, the first water to enter it will be at the bottom and the last water to enter will be at the top. Because it is top loading, in other words, because the water enters from the top, you can cycle it up and down in short water columns to collect the sample if the water column is not long enough to actually pull the sleeve through. Each of our sample recovery sleeves are made out of low-density polyethylene and can subsist for long periods in hostile groundwater environments. Perhaps the biggest disadvantage of the HydraSleeve is that when it is left in a well for long periods, for example to allow the well to re-equilibrate, sediment that may be naturally occurring within the well has time to settle down to the bottom of the well and collect on top of the closed check valve. Therefore, when the HydraSleeve is pulled upwards, that slug of sediment, which should be at chemical equilibrium with the surrounding water, will move down to the bottom of the sample recovery sleeve. Therefore, there may be a layer of sediment at the bottom of the sample recovery sleeve depending on the turbidity of the well. The SuperSleeve, which will fit 2-inch Schedule 40 wells, and the top-weighted SkinnySleeves, which will fit 2-inch Schedule 80 wells, were actually designed to collect the maximum amount of water possible from a 2-inch well. They provide the maximum sample volumes of 2 to 4 liters from 2-inch wells with 10-foot saturated well screens. They therefore provide you with a large sample volume and no filtration of the sample. During operation, these fill at a continuous 1-to-1 rate, and as you can see, some of these are quite long. We have made 7- and 9-foot long sleeves which will basically take all of the water out of the well screen. Developed in 2009, these are like the original HydraSleeve in that they are simple and inexpensive to use. Note the photo in the center, which shows a compressed SuperSleeve in a 4-foot column of water. As you can see, this is probably only a 1-liter unit, but it can collect a sample out of less than 4 feet of water. The limitations of the SuperSleeve and SkinnySleeve are like those of the standard HydraSleeve. Sediment will collect on top of the check valve over a period of time, and depending on the natural turbidity of the water, the longer these are in the well, the more sediment will collect on top. Another limitation is the size of the large sleeves. In 2-inch and larger wells, if you intend to collect more than 2 liters of sample, it is probably best to have 2 people recover the sleeve because these are very long sleeves and can be quite heavy. Our suggestion is that you use either mechanical assistance or another operator to retrieve it from the well. The SpeedBag, a much newer sample recovery sleeve that we developed in 2014, was designed to minimize the mixing as the bag is lowered into the well. As you can see from the picture on the left, it has a very thin, narrow profile, and it also has a 1-inch diameter hole punched into the top above the check valve. To operate the SpeedBag, you simply drop it into the well and lower it to your sample depth. Then, because the water will have a tendency to bypass at a higher rate when drawn upwards, and so it will not fill as fast, you cycle it up and down about 1 to 2 feet 5 times in the sample zone. The SpeedBag's slim profile and shape minimize mixing. Also, because the SpeedBag is deployed and then immediately recovered, there is very little time for sediment to accumulate. Further, the SpeedBag will only collect sediment that is in the zone where the sample is pulled up at. The result of all of this is about the lowest turbidity sample that you can get out of a well. Another benefit is that there is minimal sample exposure time. We have been able to deploy and recover SpeedBags in 120-foot wells in under 4 minutes. Also, nothing is left in the well between sample events. If, for example, another group comes to the well and does water levels, you don't have to worry about your sample being pulled out of the well and then being dropped back in. Another important feature is that it accelerates comparisons. If you are doing a side-by-side comparison, for example looking at low-flow sampling compared to a HydraSleeve, the SpeedBag allows you to drop it in and recover it while you're still at the wellhead, and then do your low-flow sampling immediately. You don't need to let the SpeedBag sit in the well for the re-equilibration period. Like previous HydraSleeves, it is inexpensive, simple, and fast, and once again, you only need to make one trip out. The SpeedBag also has less reusable hardware. If you want to decontaminate the weights between the wells and throw away the tether, you can actually get by with just 1 or 2 weights. And lastly, it functions in hostile groundwater conditions, and it does so even better because it is only in the water for a very brief period. The biggest limitation of the SpeedBag is its sample volume. The largest sample volume you can get with a SpeedBag in a 2-inch well without incurring a lot of mixing is about 900 milliliters. Also, although it is not a limitation, some are unsure about the fact that the SpeedBag needs to be cycled up and down in the sample zone to assure sample collection from the desired interval. Some think this will increase the turbidity of the sample, but it doesn't. As stated before, it's actually about the lowest turbidity level you can get. Our last device is the brand new W3 HybridSleeve, which is a diffusion advective sampler that is essentially a well within a well. It provides a low turbidity sample that can be used for all contaminants. The W3 HybridSleeve reduces sample turbidity by preventing in-well sediment from accumulating on top of the sample recovery sleeve's check valve. It consists of an upper hollow sample collection tube which has a large pore size of right around 25 microns. Not only do contaminants diffuse in and out of it, they can also flow through it advectively. The W3 HybridSleeve allows you to collect normal colloidal-sized particles that are mobile in the aquifer, but also minimizes the effect of sampling-induced turbidity. These will fit both 2-inch and 50 milliliter wells, and the maximum sample volume is about 1 liter for the sizes we currently have available. The sample itself comes from a defined source, which is wherever that collection tube is located. When the W3 HybridSleeve is pulled upwards, the water, by inertia, leaves the tube and flows into the deflated sample recovery sleeve below, and it fills it up. When full, the check valve closes and you bring it to the surface. The noted disadvantages of the W3 HybridSleeve are that you must allow the water in the hollow collection tube to equilibrate because of the mixing caused by the collection tube, the sample recovery sleeve, and the weight all going into the well. It is also slightly more complex than the HydraSleeve because you have the collection chamber that must be attached above the sleeve. These are currently the 4 sample devices created and manufactured by GeoInsight. Each has its own particular advantages. Thank you for watching, and should you have any questions, please call us at 1-800-996-2225 or visit us online at www.hydrasleeve.com.